Hello friends, welcome to Code Coding. In this video, we are going to learn about constructor reference. So we have already seen two type of method references. First is static method reference and instance method reference. In this video, we will cover the topic of constructor reference. So this was the syntax for static method reference. So you need a static method for it. So whichever class that contains the static method, you need to provide the class name for it, then the symbol for method references and the name of static method. In instance method references, you need to create the instance of your class first, and with the help of that instance, you can use the instance method name for method reference. But in constructor reference, we need to make use of class name and then we need to provide a new keyword. So this is a syntax for constructor reference. So constructor reference refers to a constructor of a class. So it refers to the constructor of a class. It is used to create instances of a class. So basically, as you know, constructor are used to create instances of a class. And when we are trying to use the constructor reference, we can achieve the same thing. Now we will see in the demo how to make use of it. Let's first create two classes inside this package called method references. I will create two classes here. One class is student. This is a student class. Let's create another class. This will be our main class. I will say a main, and I want the main method inside this class. So these are our two classes, student and main. And what we will have here, we will have one constructor for the student class. So I will say here student. And how to define a constructor? It should have the same name as the class name, student. It will not take any arguments. And inside this, I will print one message. I will say here student created. Student created. So basically, whenever we create the object of this class, we will call the constructor, right? So I want to print a message a student created inside this constructor student of class student. Now that's it for this class. And now inside the main class, what we will do, we will make use of constructor reference. So we already know method references are used to refer the method of functional interfaces. So we will make use of a predefined functional interface called supplier. And what does this supplier does? It will not take any input. It will just return us one result. So we can make use of here supplier. So it is from java.util function, and here you need to provide the output data type. So what we are going to get, we are going to get the instance of student class. So that's why we will say a student, because this is a data type that we are going to receive here, student. And let's say the name of supplier is S1 here. And now we will refer the constructor of it. And what was the syntax? It was class name, then the new keyword. So class name is student. I will say is student. This is my class name student. Then this particular symbol, and I will say here new. So we have referred to the method of this functional interface called supplier. And we have already learned about the supplier interface. The link is already in the description. There is a method called get here. So I will say s1 dot get. So get is a abstract method for this functional interface supplier. And what it will do now? It will return us the result. So if I print this particular message, sysout, and I will print this s1 dot get inside this out. Let's see the output. Let's run this code now. Let's save me this class as well. Let's run the main class. We are getting the output here, student created. So whenever this s1.get is being called, then what will happen? This is a functional interface supplier, right? And it will return one result of type student. And here we are returning the instance of it student. Inside this get method, what will happen? Whatever implementation we have provided inside the constructor, we will get that. So we are getting the message as student created. So that's why we are getting here student created. And now we have directly print the s1.get. So that's why we are getting this particular value as well. But instead of sysout, if I directly say here s1.get, s1.get, we will get the message as student created. See, we are getting the output as student created. So that is a use of constructor reference. It is used to refer to the constructor of a class, and it is used to create instances of a class. So we have created the instance of student class here. Let's take another example in the same class where we will have one argument, a constructor with the argument. So I will say here, let's say string name. And now what we will do inside the student, I don't want, okay, let's keep the message also. And I will say here, this, let's first declare a variable here, instance variable. I will say a string name, and whatever name we get inside this constructor, we will say this dot name is equal to name. So that's it for this particular class. So what we are doing now inside this constructor, whenever this constructor is being called with the name as a parameter, we will assign this value to our name instance variable. Now inside this main, this particular thing will not work, right? Because let's see the error here. So what does the error says? The type student does not define student that is applicable here, because now it's expecting one argument, right? It is not empty now. Here we are expecting one argument of type string. So what we can do, we need to pass a string, right? We need to pass a string and we need to get the output as student. So basically we will pass one input and we will get one output. So in that case, we can't use supplier. We need to use the function. So function from java.util function package, it will take one input. So we need to pass input as a string and we will get the output as student. So that's why we need to pass here two argument. One is string, another is student. The name is S1, and now we have referenced with a constructor reference here, student new, and now there is no method called get, because get was the method of supplier interface. Now for a function, we have the method called apply. So if I say here S1 dot, now see we have apply method, and now we need to pass string because it is expecting string. So I will say here, let's say code crush, and now if I run this code, let's see what is the output. See, we are getting the message as student created. So what is happening here? This particular function interface is having the input as string. So we are passing your string as code crush and we are getting the result as student. So basically this is constructor is being called here. And now we can make use of this name variable also. So how we can make use of it? So let me remove this part here. So when we are calling this method, we will store it inside the student. So I will say here student and student. Basically s1 dot apply dot code crush. So this is the name of a student now, code crush, and what we will do, we will print it sys out. And when I say student, so this is a variable here, student, we are going to use it student. And when I say dot, see we have a name, right? And now if I run this code, then we will get student dot name as code crush. If I run this code now, see we are getting the output as code crush, because whenever this constructor is being called, the name variable is assigned to our value whatever we have passed. Now if I change the name here, let's say name is John. Let's save and run this code. See we are getting here John. So that is a use of constructor reference. So as per your requirement, you can make use of any of this type of reference, whether it is a static instance or constructor reference.